Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at a really important paper today. It's from the Data and Society Research Institute.
Yeah, Media Manipulation and Disinformation Online by Alice Marwick and Rebecca Lewis.
Right, so our mission really is to unpack what they found. Who's doing this online manipulation?
Yeah.
How? Why?
And crucially, why does it seem like traditional media is often so vulnerable to it? The paper tries to map this whole shadowy landscape.
It really does. It looks at these like internet subcultures and the narratives they push, trying to connect the dots. It covers a lot basics, case studies like Gamergate, Pizzagate.
hmm
It's pretty comprehensive.
Definitely. And they start right off with the who. Who are these manipulators? And it's not just one type of actor.
No, it's a mix.
Exactly. They list internet trolls, obviously, but also the Gamergate movement, different hate groups and ideologues.
They specifically named the alt-right and the Manosphere in there.
They do. Plus conspiracy theorists, sometimes influencers, these hyper-partisan news sites, and even politicians can get involved in amplifying things.
What really stood out to me was how much overlap they describe. It's not like neat little boxes.
No, not at all.
You see how Gamergate links back to places like 4chan or how the alt-right borrows language and like aesthetics from the Manosphere.
Mm-hmm.
It's messy.
Very messy. So if that's the who, the paper then digs into the why, what motivates them.
Right, the motivations.
And it's varied. There's ideology, for sure, often framed as fighting cultural Marxism. A term they point out is used to label progressive movements as some kind of threat.
Mm.
Then there's radicalization. They talk about this red pilling idea, and anomie, particularly for young men feeling sort of disconnected, that breakdown of social belonging.
And then there may be simpler things driving it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Money in some cases, or just gaining status and attention within those online groups.
Okay, so motivations are complex. What about the how? The techniques? That's where it gets really digital, right?
Totally. They leverage participatory culture, the low barrier to entry online, shared jokes, norms that gets turned into a tool.
Weaponized,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. They build networks for quick coordination. And then memes. Big time.
Not just funny cat pictures, though.
No, definitely not. The paper highlights image macros, sure, but also text memes, like using the echo symbol to target Jewish people, or terms like cuck.
Which they trace back to racist origins.
Explicitly. These are ideological weapons. They also mention bots for amplification and what they call strategic amplification and framing.
Meaning,
Planting stories, maybe on smaller sites first, and crucially defining the narrative early. Getting their version out there before the truth can even put its boots on, basically.
which leads right into why the media seems so vulnerable, doesn't it?
It does. The paper points to a few things. First, there's this existing lack of trust in traditional media. We see that in polls.
Yeah, Gallup tracks that.
Then the decline of local news. Less local reporting means fewer checks, creates these news deserts. But the huge factor is the attention economy. The constant pressure for clicks, for novelty, anything sensational, emotional. It's like catnip, as the paper says. For reporters, maybe grabbing stuff from social media without enough checking.
Oof. Catnip. That's
Yeah.
a good way to put it.
And the outcomes the paper lays out are pretty stark. It's not just misinformation spreading.
Yeah, it fuels this cycle, right? Growing distrust in institutions generally.
Exactly. It leads to further radicalization as these ideas bleed into other online spaces like gaming communities or fandoms. And sometimes it has real-world impacts.
Like Pizzagate, which led to actual violence.
Terrifying. Truly.
Looking at the paper itself critically,
Mm.
it's quite direct, isn't it?
Mm.
The descriptions of trolling, the language they document from places like 4chan, like newfags and stuff, it's raw.
It is raw, but it feels necessary to actually understand what they're describing. It maps this really complex space, even while admitting the boundaries between groups are blurry.
Yeah, they acknowledge that fluidity.
Definitely. For understanding this stuff today, it's foundational. It can be dense, but it explains the mechanics clearly. It's insightful, maybe a bit alarming too.
So, rating time, what would you give it?
I'd give it a solid 4.5 out of 5. It's essential reading for navigating, the current information mess, even if it makes you paranoid about checking everything twice.
Huh. Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. And this deep dive really just highlights how complex online information is and why understanding these dynamics is so crucial for you listening as you navigate it all.
Which leads to a thought, maybe. Considering how this attention economy fuels sensationalism, what responsibility do we have as consumers in deciding what we share, what we amplify?
That's a great question to leave people with. This deep dive was brought to you by the Fact Check First Initiative and verifyapp.cloud. Remember to verify before you amplify.